New tariffs on our North American neighbors paused for now. We'll tell you what's next after negotiations with Canada and Mexico after President Donald Trump's proposals.
The debate over using taxpayer dollars to pay for private school tuition may pick up again today in the Texas Senate. A look at what's included in that bill.
And after a very hot Monday, when can we finally see some relief and get away from that 84-degree temperature we hit yesterday? I'll have that coming up in your First Warning Weather.
In-depth, investigative. This is KXAN News at Noon.
A neighborhood in North Austin looked like this when it experienced a night of protests as crowds gathered along a busy street.
This morning, Austin police confirmed for us one person is in custody following last night's protest focused on President Trump's deportation policies. That person's charge right now is unknown. The protest began about 7 last night with APD posting on social media a group had gathered near North Lamar Boulevard and Rutland Drive. Police at the time asked drivers to avoid this area if possible. Around 8, the crowd was reportedly dispersed, but we had some team members at the scene who say people were actually still there going to 9 and 9:30. By 9:45, police said it was responding to a large group of people, this time over at Lamar and Runberg. Officers were seen using pepper balls to disperse the crowd there. Our team spoke with 2 protesters about why it was so important for them to be out there.
Yes, I would say so. Since we are Mexicans ourselves, we find it necessary to come speak out. Yes, I think so.
Now, this is not the only local demonstration against the Trump administration's controversial deportation efforts. A protest happened this weekend in Pflugerville outside a possible ICE facility near Highways 130 and 45. Our reporters saw Homeland Security vehicles outside. So far, ICE and the Homeland Security Department have not returned our multiple requests to gather more information.
Since ICE initially confirmed enhanced targeted operations in Austin as a part of that nationwide effort, the agency hasn't answered many of KXAN's specific questions about the details of these operations.
But yesterday, we had a chance to talk with Chris Cabrera here at KXAN. He is a U.S. Customs and Border Protection agent in the Rio Grande Valley and the vice president of the National Border Patrol Council, which is Border Patrol's union. CBP acts in a similar capacity to ICE, but they each have different focuses. Cabrera hammered home that the notion that ICE agents are only targeting serious criminals, but that does not mean there is not, quote, collateral damage. He also added ICE is not trying to track down people without criminal histories. Cabrera said that federal agents will consider whether someone has taken steps to obtain citizenship.
There's different scenarios, you know, if they're in the process, if they're almost complete with the process, or they haven't even started it, or they're not even, you know, trying to. If they've been in here for 25 years and, you know, haven't lifted a finger to make things right, or if, you know, they're happen to be married with children and, you know, in the process of getting their paperwork fixed.
As for what appears to be potential ICE holding facilities in Pflugerville and one confirmed in Taylor, Cabrera did not know any specifics, but he did confirm ICE is holding detainees at federal facilities across Texas. He says ICE is in charge of deciding which kinds of criminal warrants to pursue, but he added he does not know of any hard line when it comes to those decisions. Some examples he gave of crimes that could land someone on this list: any violent felonies, crimes against women or children, and drug trafficking. He compared that to misdemeanor theft charges, which he says ICE agents are likely not prioritizing at the moment.
This morning, a man is facing a first-degree murder charge in connection to a death from 2024. The warrant for his arrest marks the first fentanyl-related warrant the Travis County Sheriff's Office has filed at the state level, the agency says. Last August, TCSO deputies responded to Killingsworth Lane in Pflugerville. They found 22-year-old Raimundo Silva Jr. on the floor. According to that warrant, deputies tried to save his life while waiting for medics, but Silva died at the scene. Deputies seized a round blue pill that later tested positive for fentanyl. An autopsy confirmed the toxic effects of fentanyl, among other drugs, caused Silva's death. Detectives identified this man, 21-year-old Noe Arellano Perez, as the supplier. Evidence obtained during the investigation placed him in the same place as Silva at the time of his death. As of today, Arellano Perez remains in custody with that first-degree murder charge. The Austin Police Department is asking you to help find potential victims of a man charged now with multiple sex crimes.
Officers held a news conference earlier today with several other agencies. Police said that they have KXAN French Burton in custody now, charged with continuous sexual abuse of a child and 3 counts of sexual assault of a child. These incidents involved at least 3 separate victims.
Information gathered in our investigations suggests that Mr. French Burton contacted other underage children via social media outlets with the intent to engage in sexual activity. Given this information, we believe there may be additional survivors who may have been assaulted by Mr. French Burton.
APD acknowledged this morning that sexual abuse survivors may not want to report to law enforcement, but they said survivors who want to come forward will have the support of the APD Child Abuse Unit. They're encouraging anybody with information related to this case to contact the APD Child Abuse Tip Line or Crime Stoppers, and we've got that information in our web story at KXAN.com.
First warning weather.
We want to take a turn now to our weather conditions here in the Austin area. Take a look from the Austonian, though. We got a gorgeous shot of the Texas Capitol there, where we, of course, know that work is underway on different bills that we're tracking today. But the weather really is the biggest story because, as you see right there on the corner of your screen, 77 degrees here in our area, and it's only getting warmer today, Freddie.
I was not signed up for this, Will. When I came to do the interview at KXAN, I was told beautiful weather during January, February.
You were promised that.
I was promised that. You know what? It is still beautiful. It's just that temperatures are starting to move up. In fact, let's take a look at the calendar over the past couple of days. Remember, we're only just a few days into February itself, but we already have 1, 2, and 3 red days. That's above average temperatures. Oh, we don't count this one just yet because that's the morning temperature, but even then, that was above average as well. So what can we expect as we go on throughout the next couple of days? Unfortunately, heat. And as we look at your record temperatures, 82 on Wednesday, that's the record. For Thursday, 83. For Friday, 86. For Friday, 87. Okay, I've used the heat in parentheses here. Warmer conditions. It's not like it's triple digits. But boy, oh boy, it does feel just a tad warmer for February itself. 72 in Fredericksburg, 77 in Austin, 75 in Bastrop, 77 in San Marcos, 78 in Cameron and Rockdale. Remember, average temperatures around this time of year are in the mid-60s. That's our normal temperatures at this point. So when we continue to see the sunshine come in and temperatures start to move back up, this is something that we hope will hold off just a tad. And it looks like with a front on the way, that's going to help out. Here's a live look out of the southeast Austin camera of the Circuit of the Americas. Clear skies at this point for southeast Austin. Coming up, we're going to be talking about those records a bit more. The next weekend cold front and some temperature relief on the way. That's all coming in just a moment.
Thanks, Freddie. We want to take you now to a live look at the Texas Capitol. We're hearing from senators on the floor of the Senate. We are expecting lawmakers to debate a bill potentially soon as today. It is on that intent calendar. It would give families taxpayer dollars to pay for their children's private school tuition.
Now, the legislation that we're talking about here would create an education savings account program in Texas. It's one of the big items that Republican lawmakers would like to pass and become law this session. The senators can now vote on this because Texas Governor Greg Abbott named it an emergency item during his State of the State address this past weekend. The Senate's version of this plan carves out $10,000 per student per year to help pay for private school. Students with a disability under this plan would get $11,500 to do this. The Senate Finance Committee also met today, and it's discussing the proposed budget, which includes $1 billion to get this program up and running. Now, we are monitoring what is happening in the Senate today, and we'll share any updates about what moves they make. The Trump administration would like to uproot diversity programs in schools. The president signed an executive order mandating K-12 schools scrap any lessons related to critical race theory or risk losing federal assistance. Texas already banned its teaching back in 2021. The president's executive order comes after the Department of Education released some more disappointing news for parents out there. In 2024, The department says that reading scores declined and math scores reached a plateau nationally. The White House says it's time to get back to basics, while some Democratic lawmakers call this order a stunt.
We are learning more about the talks between President Donald Trump and leaders of Canada and Mexico that led to a 30-day suspension on his proposed tariffs for our North American neighbors.
Both of those countries pledged to enhance their border security efforts and combat drug trafficking. Washington correspondent Basil John has more on their plans.
The U.S. was dangerously close to starting a trade war that could have led to higher prices for Americans. But instead, we have this brief cool down for 1 month.
Either very, very substantial tariffs are going to be paid by them, or they're going to make some kind of a deal.
President Donald Trump agreed to pause tariffs on 2 of the U.S.'s largest trading partners, Mexico and Canada.
We can't let them take advantage of the U.S.
The 25% tariffs on imports from Mexico and Canada and 10% tariff on Canadian oil, natural gas, and electricity are on hold for 30 days after President Trump spoke to Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum.
Él hizo varias propuestas.
Mexico agreed to deploy 10,000 members of its National Guard to address drug trafficking, and the U.S. agreed to help stop trafficking of high-powered weapons into Mexico.
She did agree to 10,000 soldiers on the border. I would say that's a lot. Would you say that's pretty good?
Canada promised to name a fentanyl czar, list Mexican cartels as terrorist groups, and launch a Canada-U.S. joint strike force to combat organized crime, fentanyl, and money laundering. But economic experts still warn of a future where these tariffs go into effect, and Americans would see higher prices on groceries, electronics, cars, and gas. The U.S. has proceeded with imposing a 10% tariff on Chinese imports, leading China to retaliate with tariffs on American goods. President Trump will speak with Chinese President Xi Jinping in the coming days. Reporting in Washington, I'm Basil John.
Welcome back, everyone. Miami is taking residents and visitors on an immersive tour geared for the age of Instagram through the Paradox Museum. The 11,000 square foot museum is both an art gallery, a science exhibition, and really a 21st century funhouse all combined. It features more than 70 exhibits and optical illusions that they say challenge the imagination while linking back to old carnival fun houses. So you'll recognize things like the mirror maze, spinning tunnel, and the upside down room. One key difference between this museum and a fun house, it explains the math and science behind each of these illusions.
Now, something I think that differentiates Paradox from those other experiences is not only is it immersive and projection and technology based, but it's very tactile and hands-on as well, which is what makes it really great for families too, is that kids are encouraged to touch and play and manipulate everything.
Paradox Museum has more than a dozen locations throughout North America, Europe, and Asia. The Miami spot, which opened a couple years ago, was the first in North America, followed by Las Vegas and now a New Jersey location as well.
Let's go ahead and start off with what it looks like outside right now. We've just been talking about the clearing that we're starting to see. Fredericksburg, Blanco, Dripping Springs, Austin, Round Rock, and Georgetown all now seeing partly cloudy to mostly clear skies, while Mason, Llano, San Saba, Lampasas, Burnett all continue to see at least cloudier conditions compared to pretty much everyone else. Temperatures at this point, 70s, almost 80 degrees as you reach out towards LaGrange and Flatonia at 79 degrees there. Austin now at 77 degrees. Fredericksburg still at about 72 and a bit cooler as you get up towards San Saba and Lampasas at 69 to 71 degrees. Clouds and radar still continue to show the clearing conditions, at least for now. Throughout the rest of the afternoon, we'll get sunnier skies for pretty much everyone before we get to sunset. Tomorrow morning, we'll start to see some of the drizzle start to flow back in for early in the morning. At around 6 a.m. to 8 a.m., you may get little pockets of drizzle here and there. Same thing as what we saw today is what we'll see tomorrow as well. We'll rinse and repeat, and we'll do it again on Thursday with a little bit of a drizzle flowing in. The surface winds showing overall how we continue to see pretty much everything flowing back in from the Gulf. That's what's flowing in a lot of the cloud coverage. That's what's giving us some of that drizzle, and that is what's also contributing to our warmer conditions as well. 65 degrees for tonight. Winds coming in from the south-southeast at 5 to 10 miles per hour, but a bit of a dip from Saturday to Sunday as we see a front arriving. Until then, though, we're going to be stuck with the warmth as that continues to just stay right in place throughout the state of Texas. 7-day forecast, 81 for today, 82 for tomorrow, 84 for Thursday, 85 for Friday. Getting out towards Saturday, we're at 86 degrees before the front arrives. That'll take our temperatures down to about 66 on Sunday and then 60 degrees as we reach out towards Monday with a 30% chance of rain. Let's go ahead and send over to Rich Siegel with a bit more.
All right, Freddie, thank you here at 12:19 on this Tuesday. You know, we've had this warm weather. It's going to continue for the next several days, so it might not be a bad idea to get out and work on your fall gardens, vegetable gardens or plants. And for your vegetable and leaf flower beds, use an organic high nitrogen fertilizer. You'll need also about 1 to 2 inches of compost and some trace materials that could include some mulch. You'll want to go about 6 feet, I don't know if that's 6 feet or 6 inches deep with the trace materials and the compost, and then you'll want to top off those other 2 inches, the top 2 inches with fertilizer. One thing is to water deeply because you'll want to make sure that that water gets deep enough to avoid any freeze damage in case we do have another one of those. Don't overwater because the water use is very slow when the weather is cool. And then at the bottom line, tidy up by getting rid of that dead vegetation, branches, leaves, and things like that.
Longhorns, both big and small, are worried about a new neighbor in Burnett County, a rock crusher plan. This week, the plant could move one step closer to becoming a reality. KXAN's Eric Henriksen investigated the concerns of landowners and the potential impact that this rock crusher could have on Austin's water supply.
Come here, baby. A Texas icon, the Longhorn.
Yeah, you know, have a treat.
She's one of several on Randy Prince's Burnett County ranch.
Come on. Yes, come on and get it. We have longhorn cattle that we raise and also exotics. Scimitar oryx, black bucks.
Prince's ranch sits in a quiet part of the hill country, just a few miles from Longhorn Caverns, Inks Lake, and Lake Buchanan. Late last year,
there was a notice put up on the fence, and it said that they're proposing a rock quarry.
Across the street from his home, land purchased by Austin-based Asphalt Inc., designated as the future site of a rock crusher. Rock crushers and quarries are common in Burnett County.
And the reason a lot of them target this area is because of the rich resources associated with the Llano Uplift geology.
Mitchell Sodek, general manager with the Central Texas Groundwater Conservation District, says several rock crushers are found along Highway 281 between Marble Falls and Burnett.
So these limestones are older, they're more dense, and therefore they're more sought after and more valuable.
To get this limestone used for buildings across the state, the quarry uses rock crushers to break down larger rocks, and these need water. In a permit filed with the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, Asphalt Inc. said they could use anywhere between 648,000 to nearly 10 million gallons of water a month. While much of that water gets recycled, there's a possibility of runoff.
The water comes in this creek, and this creek comes underneath Highway FM 3509, which is Hoover Valley Road, and is fed exactly where they proposed to put the rock crushing facility.
That creek empties into this pond on Prince's property.
The animals that we depend on out here and the longhorns that they raise, this is where they get their water. The overflow and the excess water goes into Spring Creek. Towards the back of the property, Spring Creek flows into Inks Lake.
Permits filed by Asphalt Inc. LLC with the LCRA do not show this creek. However, it shows a barrier lining the road to prevent runoff. This same permit does show another creek.
The runoff goes two directions. It goes into Peters Creek, which feeds the pool that kids at camp.
You know, in summer, you know, we spend a lot of time in the water, and and that's priceless.
Nan Manning with Camp Longhorn says Peters Creek feeds directly into this pool.
When we had our last major flood, the water came to that bottom level of that tower.
Each of the camp's pools feed into each other before flowing into Inks Lake.
We understand that there does need to be locations for things like this, but this ecosystem in this area and those fault lines and the water and you know, just everything that I've already said, it doesn't make any sense.
A rock quarry in that spot, you couldn't pick a worse place to be.
In Burnett County, Eric Henriksen, KXAN Investigates.
For the rock crusher to begin operations, it does need several permits, one from the TCEQ, another is needed from the Central Texas Groundwater Conservation District if the plant intends to pump well water. One is also needed from the LCRA, and it is currently under review. The LCRA told us, though, that 1,100 public comments had been submitted as of January 31st. People have until this Friday to submit more comments.
In-depth, investigative. This is KXAN News at Noon.
Today, you have a chance to share your opinion about short-term rentals here in Austin.
We're talking about those Airbnb and VRBO properties where people can list their apartments or their homes for overnight stays. KXAN's Barrett Tryon is joining us live here in the studio. Barrett, we want to get that company's name correct.
Yes,
but talk to us about what actions the city would like to take and why.
Yeah, of course. Well, the city of Austin has really had a hard time enforcing those short-term rentals. It recently has laid out a plan to make it easier for officials to crack down on listings that are just not registered with the city. Now, the city first actually began tackling short-term rentals almost a decade ago. And while all of them are supposed to be licensed, the city says it believes most of them are not. There are potentially thousands out there, a vast majority of them, as you might know, in and around the downtown area. Now, right now, the city says it gets around $7 million a year from these short-term rentals, a number that could balloon, of course, if everyone was registered, but it's been very tricky for them to deal with it. And that's left some people frustrated.
This is really impacting my quality of life and the quality of life of those around me.
Forms will require hosts to provide the license number in the advertisement and will delist properties that are not licensed.
And you can sound off on what you think should be done. It's happening just about a half hour at 1 o'clock during today's joint planning and city council meeting. And there's actually 2 more of the scheduled meetings for this month, and the city says they are expected to take that feedback and just kind of decide how it will proceed in the future in the coming months.
Okay, Barrett, talk to us. It's not just about the city, wanting to track these licensed folks. We heard from a neighbor there who is having some problems, it sounds like, with STRs in her area.
Yeah, so she happens to live in one of the big high-rises, and she says it's a security problem because you think about it, you have people that don't live in the building, you don't know where you're going, coming and going weird hours of the day. So you have strangers all of a sudden that are just coming in for a weekend, for a week, and then they're gone. So how do you regulate that so that people feel safe? If you're paying a lot of money to live downtown, you feel safe in your own home, but still get the money. There's estimated there's 10,000 of these rentals, and there's only 2,000 or so that are registered. So the city wants their piece of the pie too, but at the sake of people who live in these buildings, say, hey, I want to be safe.
Lots to watch when that public comment begins.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for your reporting too.
Yeah, of course.
First warning weather.
Freddie's trying to take it away. Freddie, what? You don't want to hear our witty banter?
Right to the weather, yeah.
You don't want to listen to our witty banter?
I got very excited. Barrett was here. It was
the whole team is here, yeah.
For those who don't know, and yes, Barrett, I'm going to call you out. He walks in with music sometimes. And it's really
just
great.
To get the spirits up, yeah.
Yeah, it lifts the spirits. Gets us all excited, especially after temperatures that we actually hit yesterday. Look at what we did, 81 degrees yesterday. That was set back in 1911. That was the record, and we actually hit 84 degrees. So we smashed that record by 3 degrees, unfortunately, and we'll get closer and closer over the next couple of days. This is a live look out of the Circuit of the Americas. Right now, temperatures at 77 degrees in Austin, San Marcos at 77, Fredericksburg at 73, Georgetown at 75, and Bastrop at 79. But the clouds, they're breaking apart, and we're getting nothing but sunshine flowing right back in. Satellite and radar at this point. Well, the only places that we're seeing that cloud coverage really at this point is San Saba and Lampasas. Even the clouds we saw in Mason, Llano, and Burnett are starting to break apart a bit more as we plan out the rest of your day. The temperatures have nowhere to go but up to about 81, 82. Could we even reach 83 degrees today? I think we're on our way there, and that's not somewhere we want to be, because that would also tie or get close to tying records. So we look at the next couple of days. Unfortunately, we'll continue flirting with the records. The cold front is going to come in over the weekend and finally provide some temperature relief, as well as bring us rain chances. That's all coming up in your first warning weather.
Thanks, Freddie. This week, crews in Washington, D.C. pulled parts of that American Airlines plane out of the Potomac River after the deadly midair crash with a military helicopter.
Those crews used cranes to pull out an engine as well as part of the fuselage. That engine will now be taken to a nearby hangar for further investigation. The recovery also included a side of the airplane. Meanwhile, teams are still searching for unaccounted for passengers in the wreckage.
The dignified recovery of missing flight passengers and personnel take precedence, right? And should any remains be found during our process, an automatic work stoppage happens, and we will definitely begin the proper coordination with the appropriate authorities.
At Reagan National Airport, people are memorializing the lives lost with flowers. The goal for the recovery and the work crews is to get larger pieces of that wreckage first and then work down to the smaller parts in the river. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum agreed to send Mexican troops to the border with the U.S., temporarily heading off a possible trade war. Both President Donald Trump and Sheinbaum announced this yesterday on social media after also agreeing to pause tariffs for a month. Mexico planned to deploy 10,000 members of its National Guard to address drug trafficking and stop the flow of fentanyl into the U.S. Texas Land Commissioner Dawn Buckingham spoke to News Nation on these new changes, and she said she believes they'll have a positive effect in curbing illegal immigration.
This is a huge win, not just for Texas, but for our entire country, because Mexico is a critical partner. And all those people who came out of the gate criticizing President Trump for the threat of tariffs, it's a negotiating tool. You know, the art of the deal. He got what he wanted. He got what we needed. You know, not only now does Texas have a good partner in the federal government with President Trump's administration, but now we have a good partner with Mexico. And again, they are vital to stop this flow of illegal migrants over our border. And we are just really excited to have them here and be working with them together.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth visited the southern border yesterday. Hundreds of active duty troops are being deployed there as President Trump ramps up his immigration agenda. Back here in Austin, police are investigating a homicide that happened yesterday near Barton Springs. Police said they responded to what was labeled as an emergency crash call involving a vehicle at Barton Springs Road and A.Z. Morton. Initially, Austin Travis County EMS told us that paramedics transported a pedestrian. At a briefing last night, though, police said that officers found a man with obvious signs of injury. He was taken to the hospital where he later died. Officers do not have information to share right now about the vehicle or the driver just yet. They add that this appeared to be an isolated incident and there was no threat to the public. The investigation is ongoing.
Austin area groups working to address homelessness will get nearly $14 million from the federal government.
That's all according to the Ending Community Homelessness Coalition, or ECHO. The Continuum of Care funds are one of Austin Travis County's main sources of federal funding. This year, the money will go to 8 different groups. That includes the Safe Alliance, which focuses on survivors of domestic violence, LifeWorks, a group that helps out homeless youth, and Integral Care, which cares and serves people with mental illness.
A lot has been going on, and there's been a lot of conversations nationally and locally about changes in the administration and perhaps different priorities, and that we're just really excited that the federal government and HUD is still moving forward with this funding allocation. And we are very grateful to our service partners who are doing this hard work every day.
This year, the Austin area got $2 million more in this type of funding than last year. That's the most our area has been granted so far. A homeless encampment is now closed because of a flash flooding risk.
It's in the area of the Country Club Creek watershed. This is near the intersection of Wickersham Lane and East Riverside Drive. The city of Austin welcomed the 21 unhoused residents from that encampment to the Northbridge Shelter in Northeast Austin and the Southbridge Shelter in South Austin. At least 7 other residents went to the Marshalling Yard Emergency Shelter. Now, this is all through their Housing-Focused Encampment Assistance Link, or the HEAL initiative. In the meantime, Austin Resource Recovery will address the growing amounts of trash and debris near the creek channel. Marble Falls ISD will be asking voters to approve more than $170 million in bond money. Last week, trustees approved a 4-part bond package that calls for general facility upgrades, but also technology improvements, athletic facility upgrades, and a new multi-purpose facility that would be used for both sports and extracurricular activities. This bond election is expected to be held in May.
We've got a live look right now as we come back at 12:43 this afternoon from the KXAN weather cam atop our studios. You can see downtown Austin, a gorgeous view there with barely any clouds in the skies. Temperatures warming up as well. We'll get a check on the forecast and what to expect for a very warm week ahead in just a few moments with Rich and Freddie.
Yeah, warmed up here, but we all remember those images coming out from that storm, winter storm across the country last month. Kentucky saw quite a bit of it. This next story, a Kentucky man's dog went missing during that storm while he was out of the country on vacation.
It would seem very sad, but the community banded together and helped him find his pet thanks to drone technology. Kirsten Foote shows us their heartwarming reunion.
Good boy. Moments like these with his dog Sawyer are something Billy Newington doesn't take for granted. Let's go. It was just a few weeks ago when their future together was uncertain, when Newington's original dog sitter hired through an app got snowed in. The company was able to find him a new sitter.
That sitter would call us when they got to the house to talk about, everything regarding the dogs, the feeding schedule going out or anything like that.
But Newington says that didn't happen. Instead, he got a text saying the dogs were playing in the backyard.
I panicked and I said, what do you mean about the back playing? There's no fence out there. And they were like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize. My guess is that they saw this fence here and just assumed that there was a fence around the entire yard.
The sitter was only able to track down Newington's other dog, Quinn.
Sawyer was long gone.
So he took to social media where word quickly spread. But being more than 4,000 miles away meant vacation turned into a full-time job of finding Sawyer.
I was basically trying to stay in 2 time zones at the same time with communicating.
2 days after he got back to the States on January 17th, Newington and a Lexington-based thermal drone company took their search to the sky.
They found him within literally 5 minutes.
Sawyer was curled up in a ball against a fence along Freedom's Way. Newington headed over that way while on the phone with the drone operator.
And I panicked, and even though I was told before, don't call his name because he's in fight or flight, he might run, I just panicked and said his name, and I didn't shout it, I just said Sawyer. And the drone people, I couldn't see anything because it was so dark, but the drone guys said, he's looking at you. And so I said, sorry, and he came running towards the fence.
10 days of panic and fear instantly relieved, all thanks to the help of strangers.
I can't even begin to express my gratitude for this community and everything they did to make it possible for him to come home.
Oh,
my God.
Y'all should have heard us during the story. All of us were going,
yeah, twists and turns, but in the end, Sawyer's back home. So that was so sweet.
Yeah,
wow,
you could see that reunion between the two of
them.
them.
The value of community, though. I mean, to have that all worked out, it's amazing.
Man, and new technology, too.
Yes,
it really is.
Speaking of technology, you all have some things going on to show us back in the Weather Center.
What we've been watching.
Some stuff and things. Yeah.
Some things. That's my extent of what goes on back there, of my knowledge.
What we've been watching is obviously the front, but now the extent of rainfall that we could actually get after the front passes through. And we take a look at your 8 to 14 day rainfall outlook. That gives us a wetter than normal condition for the state of Texas. That's good news. The bad news is it's only within that 8 to 14 days, and a majority of it is actually within that 8 to 10 day range more than anything else. But we'll take what we can get. So let's take a look at when the front actually does arrive. Should be sometime on Sunday. And when it does, it'll bring cooler weather with it, but we'll start to see some moisture flow back in one more time. Now, with that, we obviously are giving ourselves about a 30% chance of seeing some rainfall on Monday itself. The biggest thing, though, is that we're going to get far away from the 80s and back down into the 60s. From Saturday's high of 86 degrees to Sunday's high of 66 degrees. That's at least a 20-degree drop, and it all depends on when that front actually arrives. If it arrives a little later, then unfortunately we'll see a warmer Sunday, but if it arrives a little earlier, we could see a cooler Sunday. So when we look at your temperature outlook for the 8 to 14 day range, cooler than normal. That's good news. However, your February temperature outlook overall for the entire month is warmer than normal. I know it's a lot going on here. The 8 to 14 day is only 1 week, so overall, for the rest of the month, we are still looking at warmer than normal. If you remember the calendar I showed you at the very beginning of the newscast, that already had 3 above average temperature days. So put that all together, and that's essentially what we get. As you look at your satellite and radar, cloud coverage still up towards San Saba and Lampasas. Everyone else seeing mostly clear to partly cloudy conditions. Current temperatures, 77 in Mason, Llano, 71 in San Saba, 77 in Austin, and 77 in Bastrop. Sunny conditions will remain throughout the rest of the day today. Tomorrow morning, some clouds roll back in. We get a bit of drizzle early in the morning down towards Lockhart, San Marcos, and into Austin. And then we'll rinse and repeat, and we'll do it again on Thursday as well. Your 7-day forecast, 81 for Tuesday, 82 for Wednesday, 84 for Thursday. By Friday, 85 degrees. And then we have that front that will come in Saturday into Sunday with temperatures dropping down into the 60s. I almost tripped. Sorry, let's go and send it over to Rich Siegel.
Be careful of those trash cans. They just come right out at you. All right, we have a cold front that has made it to south of Dallas, that blue shade indicating the colder air, and that extends northward all the way to the Canadian border. That front is not going to get here. It's going to retreat back to the north. There's a warm front, but there is another front that will get here on Sunday. 77 right now here. We're seeing most of the inclement weather today from the northern Rockies back to the middle of the Pacific coast. We've got that atmospheric river of moisture producing some rain and snow in the higher mountains coming in from the Pacific across northern California. They're going to get about 7 to 14 inches of a fresh snow in that part of the state on up into the southern part of Oregon. So today's travel delays, this is 3 o'clock this afternoon. Minor delays for Boston, Logan, and both New York airports. We've got delays in San Francisco, moderate to perhaps at some point we see that purple shade indicating that during the evening flight delays galore out there, some moderate to major delays, and that is all weather related. And as always, if you are flying out today or have a flight coming in, someone coming in to visit, check with the air carrier to see if there are any delays or to make sure your flight is on time. Will?
Rich, thanks so much. A new Japanese satellite is orbiting Earth. How that satellite will improve technology down here on the ground. And a look at what's coming up tonight on KXAN at 7 o'clock. It's St. Denis Medical, followed by Night Court at 7:30. At 8, it's Deal or No Deal Island, and then The Irrational at 9. Join us back here for more on KXAN News at 10. Japan successfully launched its 5th H-3 rocket, putting a navigation satellite into orbit. The new GPS satellite is expected to enhance the accuracy of location information used in car navigation systems and smartphones. It will also convey information in times of disasters. Five of these small satellites are now in orbit. The government plans to launch 2 more by March 2026. So an accomplishment there for sure that will hopefully benefit a lot of us, because I use that navigation system on my phone and on my car all the time.
Can I take a moment to correct something I said about 40 minutes ago?
Go ahead.
We were talking about getting your flowers and garden beds ready for spring, and I said you would want to go 6 feet deep and laying down some of the materials that actually should have been 6 inches, because if you're 6 feet deep, that's taller than me. 6 inches, and then top it with 2 inches of nitrogen-based fertilizer.
Good for the clarifying.
I was ready to get out there and really dig. I was like, man, I messed this up last year. Thank you, Rich.
I just forgot it's the punctuation.
Right.
Good tips, though. Good tips.
Really good tips. And let's go and take a look at what to expect over the next couple of days, in case you have to be digging a hole. Wednesday, 82 degrees. By Thursday, we're looking at 84 degrees. Just a look at your 7-day forecast. As our temperatures are expected to rise to about 86 on Saturday. That front comes in, that'll take our temperatures down to 66 degrees on Sunday for the championship game. Rich?
No.
Rich?
No trash talking.
He wants to end this show on a smile,
No,
not a fight.
Yes.
But that's why. Maybe I should apologize.
You don't have to. You're Freddie.
Yeah, it's it's a game. There's going to be 2 sides all the time.
That's right.
My side is the winning side, though.
Okay.
Just throwing that out there.
See you Monday.
We'll see what happens then, and we'll see who's going to be on top of this. All right, everybody. Thank you all for watching this afternoon. If you're going to dig some holes out there, it's a nice day to do that. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Take care.